Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. Human rights activists in China report that the Chinese Communist Party is increasing its pressure campaign on underground Catholics to join the quote-unquote official state-sanctioned church. Reggie Littlejohn has the details. Reggie has been doing work with China for a long time now. Founder and president of Women's Rights Without Frontiers. It's a broad-based international coalition that opposes forced abortion and sexual slavery in China. Reggie, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a joy to reconnect with you. Some time ago when you and I spoke, we had touched on the Vatican-China Accords, deal, agreement, what have you. We still don't know the details. But given what is happening in China right now, I invite you to comment on whether you think those discussions and that agreement has borne fruit for the good of Catholics in China.
Oh, no, quite the opposite, Marcus. It has borne fruit for bad for the Catholics in China. And I think that a big part of that is that the agreement is secret. No one knows what it says. And the agreement was supposed to be regarding the appointment of bishops, an agreement between the Holy See and China. But because it has been kept secret, the Chinese Communist Party, I think predictably, has used it to basically hammer Catholics in China. And they've used it to say things like, we need to shut down your church, or you must join the Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association. I mean, they can basically make up whatever they want to say on the basis of that agreement because no one knows what it says. And this is a huge problem for Catholics in China.
We are seeing that the cost of following Jesus Christ is becoming more and more real and physical in China. Tell us about how Xi Jinping is, for all the declaration that the CCP is primarily an atheistic regime, how is Xi Jinping deifying himself as a kind of God emperor or a God leader?
Xi Jinping has done things like taking down the 10 Commandments from churches and putting up Xi Jinping thought on the walls. He's done things like forcing faithful Catholics to remove images of Jesus and Mary from their homes and put pictures of Xi Jinping and Mao Zedong in their homes. I mean, and another thing is that this Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association that he is pressuring all Catholic churches to enter, it's part of the Sinicization process, which means basically that it's Catholic with Chinese characteristics. Ultimately, what that means is that ideologically, the church has to uphold the ideology of the Chinese Communist Party above the Catholic faith. And so that is arguably a deification of himself and of the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm going to ask a very obvious question, but are we surprised?
Am I surprised?
Yeah, are we surprised by this?
Well, I'm not. I'm horrified by it, and I'm concerned by it, but I'm not surprised by it, Marcus, because it's part of the same ideology that, as you know, my mission in China started out opposing forced abortion in China. Women were getting forcibly aborted up to the 9th month of pregnancy under the one-child policy, and then more recently has come to light the forced organ harvesting of prisoners of conscience in China, which is happening on an industrial level, according to a book that recently came out from my friend Jan Jekielek. So why would we not think that the Chinese Communist Party would hammer Catholics and lift itself up as God when it's trying to play God in other areas, like deciding which baby lives and which baby dies, or which person lives and which person dies in terms of the organ harvesting? That's just the way that they are. That it's intrinsic to their nature.
As we look at what they're doing to the faithful Chinese Catholics, what do we know about the growth, the numbers, and how the faithful Catholics, the ones who have allegiance to Rome in the fullness of truth in the church, what do we know about their growth and what's going on there?
Well, it's basically impossible to know with certainty about their growth. I mean, the official number says that there are approximately 12 million Catholics in China. But the Chinese Communist Party does not allow independent researchers in there. And, of course, the underground churches are already persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party, and they feel abandoned, frankly, by the Vatican. So they're not letting people in to count their numbers. But I will just say that that there's a general principle in the Catholic Church, which is that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church, and I have no doubt that these underground Catholics that are so faithful, even despite feeling like Pope Leo and before him Pope Francis did not really have their backs at all. I would not be surprised if they are growing by leaps and bounds, even in proportion to their persecution.
What's going on in terms of the persecution that's happening from the level of the state? They clearly don't have official churches to worship in that we know of safely. But what do we know about the kind of persecution they're receiving?
Well, my understanding is that they are trying to force pastors to join the official church, and I think that the reason that they do not want to join the official church is twofold. Number one, because the head of the official church is not the Pope; it is a member of the Chinese Communist Party. And number two, because then they have to register, and then they and all of their parishioners will be known and subject to persecution. But according to an article that recently came out from the National Catholic Register, they've cited instances of detention and forced disappearance, as well as China's move to ban Catholic priests from teaching or evangelizing online. And there is an account of one priest who was barred from having bank accounts, SIM cards, and a passport, meaning that he had no means of survival, can barely make ends meet for even a day or two.
The most horrifying thing too is even for those areas where we know actual faithful Chinese Catholics are worshipping, Xi Jinping has basically stripped religious artifacts and put up pictures of himself. How has all of that impacted the faith of the people in China as we know it?
Well, something I can't say from a global perspective, but I do know that there's an account of an elderly widow who was being told exactly what you're saying. She had to remove pictures. She had to remove a crucifix, a picture of Mary from her home in order to receive a tiny stipend that could make the difference between her living and her dying from the Chinese government. And she refused to remove them. And so, only God knows how many of these elderly widows, elderly widowers, other faithful Catholics are willing to sacrifice extremely deeply, even unto death, to uphold their faith in China.
Are the clergy being subjected to similar persecution as well?
Well, right, like I mentioned, this priest who was, actually, it says here that he was detained because of refusing to join the church, the official church, and then after he was released from detention, he continued to face harassment, so that he was barred from having bank accounts, SIM cards, a passport, etc. I mean, can you imagine, just everyone who's listening now, how hard would it be for you to not have a bank account or a SIM card? You have to have a SIM card to use your phone. It's a way of completely paralyzing a person because of their faith.
Reggie, as usual, extremely grateful to be able to speak with you about this and all these other issues that people in China are facing. Thank you for the work you do. My guest has been Reggie Littlejohn, founder and president of Women's Rights Without Frontiers, and we've been talking about how China is pressuring underground Catholics to be faithful to the state.